There they sat, side by side, the worst president ever and a man uniquely unqualified to replace him. Of course, that's what they called each other during the campaign. But if the first meeting was awkward, it sure didn't show. It was cordial and respectful as one man welcomed the other to the most exclusive address in the world. Here's Major Garrett.
Water cannons saluted President-elect Donald Trump today as his jet prepared to take off for Washington. A short time later, Mr. Trump sat beside President Obama in the Oval Office. In their first ever meeting, the two spent 90 minutes alone discussing foreign and domestic policy and the logistics of handing over power.
I believe that it is important for all of us, regardless of party and regardless of political preferences, to now come together, work together, to deal with the many challenges that we face.
Mr. Trump echoed those sentiments.
I very much look forward to dealing with the president in the future, including counsel. It was a great honor being with you, and I look forward to being with you many, many more times in the future. Thank you, sir.
Well, at the start of the election campaign, few took Trump seriously, starting with President Obama. However, he had to change his tone and choice of words too, following the unexpected victory.
This guy is temperamentally unfit to be commander-in-chief.
Donald Trump is uniquely unqualified to hold this job.
Come on. This guy? I mean, it's strange how, over time, what is crazy gets normalized.
We all want what's best for this country. That's what I heard when I spoke to him, and I was heartened by that. That's what the country needs.
He was the one on the bottom, so he's the one that might have the injuries. But it's a territory fight. The Eagles fight all the time. When they fight, they take them down and they hold them down until somebody finally gives. And somebody finally apparently gets.
This wasn't a lover's quarrel.
Oh, no. No. This is not a lover's quarrel. No, this was two birds that said, I want this territory, and the other one said, no, you don't.
Many Hillary Clinton supporters are still holding out hope that there will be a Madam President. A Change.org petition is looking to faithless electors in the Electoral College to essentially take the victory from Donald Trump and give it to Clinton. The Electoral College will gather across the U.S. on December 19th to certify Trump as president. Many Clinton supporters are counting on these electors to ignore their state's votes and cast their ballots for the Democratic nominee. The petition states, quote, Mr. Trump is unfit to serve. It goes on, Secretary Clinton won the popular vote and should be president. It's calling for 1.5 million signatures and has already exceeded that number.
Is there a civil war brewing in the USA? That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. As we mentioned last night, the voters rebelled, and Donald Trump won the presidency because of that rebellion. Just a few hours after the election was called, though, some anti-Trump protesters took to the streets. Nothing major, but the spectacle got intense in Oakland. The main beef seems to be that left-wing protesters don't respect an honest election.
Some celebrities are encouraging fans to fight newly elected President Trump. Stars like Katy Perry and Sophia Bush wrote it's time to fight and that their fans should never give in, while others encourage protest and use the hashtag #NotMyPresident. The hashtag is picking up heat and being used by more public figures like Rashida Jones and Jamie Lee Curtis. Others are calling for a recount, like Lindsay Lohan, writing on Twitter, "Retweet if you want to recount."
Hey guys, Dabu 7, we have more events going down inside of Russia. This time, they are stating that some of the top banks are under cyber attack. They say that this began Tuesday. It is still ongoing today. Some of these ranging from right around an hour all the way up to about 12 hours. So a lot of different DDoS attacks going down, but this is targeting some of their biggest banks in Moscow. Now, on Tuesday, obviously we had the election, but then we also had this massive explosion that had targeted a city in Russia and left them in the dark, all the people there. So it's raised a lot of questions as to, is this connected to Joe Biden's threats, to where he says they're going to strike Russia, hit them hard?
Most observers believe that based on the campaign platform of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, America's policies on the Middle East are about to shift. If Trump does recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, it won't just break with decades of precedent. It will also pit his administration against the positions of most of the United Nations. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is urging Trump to work towards a two-state solution as a means of realizing a just peace in the region. The Palestinian Authority says it's willing to work with any American president who strives towards the goal, while the Hamas leadership in the Gaza Strip says it's expecting more bias from the United States now that Trump will be in power.
And now, Palestinian resistance movement Hamas has urged U.S. President-elect Donald Trump to abandon long-standing American support for Israel. Hamas leader Khalid Mashal further called Israel a burden for the United States. He added that it would be wrong for Trump to give the green light to Israel to do as it pleases in Palestine. Mashal's comments come following Trump's victory in the U.S. election on Tuesday.
The Iranian foreign minister has called on all sides to remain committed to the nuclear deal signed between Tehran and the P5+1 group of countries last year. Mohammad Javad Zarif warned that Iran has options if any party to the deal violates their commitments under the agreement, also known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. Zarif once again stressed the need for the full implementation of the nuclear deal. His comments come after Donald Trump won the U.S. presidential election. Trump had said during his campaign that he would tear up the nuclear deal with Iran.
Now, the Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces, Major General Mohammad Hossein Bagheri, has dismissed as a joke any threat to Iranian forces in the Persian Gulf waters. The top Iranian general made the remarks in reaction to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's recent threat against Iran. Back in September, Trump warned during a campaign rally that Iranian speedboats would be shot out of the water if they approached the U.S. ships. According to General Bagheri, Iran's military prowess has reached the levels that make the enemies think twice before launching any attack against the Islamic Republic.
Cuba has announced a week of nationwide military exercises a day after the U.S. elected Donald Trump as its next president. The drills will include troop movements and explosions from the 16th to the 20th of November. Cuba has held what it calls the Bastion Strategic Exercise every few years since 1980, often in response to moments of tension with its northern neighbor. An announcement in a ruling party newspaper says the aim is to raise the country's ability to defend against enemy actions. Trump has threatened to reverse Barack Obama's move to reopen relations with Cuba.
U.S. officials said North Korea could be using tourism money to fund its nuclear weapons program. The Department of State updated a pretty serious travel warning Wednesday, urging American citizens not to travel to North Korea due to the severe risks it poses. The warning says the country funnels money from a variety of sources into its nuclear weapons program. It says it's entirely possible the country could be taking tourism money for the same purpose. U.S. citizens traveling in the East Asian country also face a heightened risk of long-term arrest or detainment. The State Department said North Korea has unduly harsh sentences for actions the U.S. would not consider crimes, like taking unauthorized photos or criticizing the government in any way.
At least 2 people are reported dead and dozens wounded after a suicide bomber rammed a car into the wall of a German consulate in Afghanistan. The Taliban is said to have claimed the attack in retaliation for NATO airstrikes last week in the city of Kunduz, in which dozens of Afghan civilians were killed. The strikes were called in after US and local troops came under heavy fire during an operation in which 2 American service members also died. There was no immediate comment from the German Foreign Ministry on Thursday's consulate attack.
There's been a suspected grenade attack on a security post outside the French embassy in central Athens. Police say an object was thrown by one of 2 people on a passing motorbike. It then exploded, injuring the officer who was on duty at the time. Police immediately sealed off the area in front of the embassy, which lies close to Parliament buildings. Anti-terror officers are investigating the incident.
3 people are reportedly injured after an explosion near a district governor's office building in southeastern Turkey. The explosion happened in Mardin province. The governor of the district is among the injured. It's unknown at this time what kind of bomb was used in the explosion.
We all know that. Check your pockets. Most of us don't have any sort of cash walking around, right?
Less than $20 on average. And with so many other ways to pay, like mobile wallets, apps, and debit and credit cards, Consumer Report says there is a growing trend toward cashing out.
Rachel Hook walks around every day with almost no money in her wallet.
I don't use cash or checks. Actually, I don't even have a checkbook or cash.
She pays for virtually everything, including her share of groceries to her roommate, through an app on her phone.
Credit and debit cards are still important cashless players, but new technologies are pushing us to abandon paper money entirely.
And so we've created an entirely new payment process, and we call it Apple Pay.
Okay, your total is $23.78.
That's it!
Indians are reeling from the Prime Minister's snap decision to take certain banknotes out of circulation. The measure to withdraw 500 and 1,000 rupee bills was introduced in an effort to stamp out corruption. However, the move, which came in a sudden announcement on Tuesday, has not been simple in an economy which is largely fueled by cash. There is a huge shortage. We don't have any small denomination bills. My pockets are empty and so is my home. There is a shortage of smaller bills everywhere. If you go to buy milk, the milkman is not accepting money. The shortage is immense.
He really did take the nation by surprise by making 86% of all currency invalid literally overnight. So a bold move, widely commended, also criticized in some part, but this is what it is. Most money here isn't worth anything anymore.
Now, clashes erupt in Rio de Janeiro as thousands of Brazilian demonstrators rally against proposed austerity measures. Police scuffled with the crowd and used tear gas to disperse them as they tried to storm the city's assembly building. An estimated 10,000 public sector workers took part in the demonstrations. The protesters say the proposed austerity measures in Rio will result in wage and pension cuts, tax increases, and suspension of social programs. However, authorities say the move would contain Rio's financial crisis. Is Rio really in a financial crisis? And if so, would these austerity measures have been taken under Dilma Rousseff?
Thank you for having me. Well, the problem that Rio has at the moment is that the federal government has frozen the bank account of the state bank because of because of debts, which means that they don't have any money. Many public servants, as you explained, who took part in demonstrations, have not been paid for months. And also they are increasing these austerity measures to the most vulnerable people of society, in this case Rio de Janeiro. Retired people, pensioners, when talking about public servants, we're talking about from bureaucrats to firefighters and police officers who were in the demonstration, which is very unusual in Brazil. So the problem is that Rio de Janeiro is bankrupt, and the federal government has frozen its bank accounts, and they don't have any money to pay. And this is part of the plan of austerity measures implemented by President Temer since he took power in August this year, after Dilma Rousseff was ousted from power.
Hi, welcome to Freddy's. At Freddy's, they come for the burgers and fries.
Guest number 133.
But stay for the frozen custard. And Travis,
What can I get you?
is always ready to serve. On Wednesday, he took the order of a very special little boy.
He wants to order dessert.
The boy comes up to the counter, fidgeting with coins and a few dollar bills, hoping he has enough for that mini mint Oreo custard.
He was a little nervous that he didn't have enough, and he kind of just ended up handing me everything he had.
It wasn't enough.
He was maybe $2 short.
So Travis, just a few minutes from the end of his shift, pulled out his own credit card and said, "It's on me."
Just the biggest eyes and just the widest smile.
A swipe that made a difference, but you see, the story doesn't end there. Just half an hour later, that same little boy handed Travis a note as he and his mother walked out.
It says, "Thank you for being so nice and paying for my concrete. We need more people like you."
This time, it was Travis that smiled.
I was smiling for the rest of the day. I could not get over it.
Wrapped up inside the receipt, a $100 bill.
It made my day.
Money Travis plans to put away for nursing school.
I like to think that I made a good impact on their day, and I kind of brightened it up, just like they did.